Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here with you today. My name is Michael Brenner and I'm head of design at Data for Change. And Data for Change is a nonprofit based in London that helps civil society organizations that collect data to create original data-driven campaigns that tackle some of the world's most pressing political and social issues. And today I'd like to share with you some of the ideas that I've been collecting for a while, and specifically share with you a sentence that sent me into an existential crisis. So here are the initial three works that inspired this talk, and we'll get to the fourth one here in a second. So what do factfulness, data humanism, and data feminism all have in common? At the most basic level, they're offering us new perspectives and reframing our relationship with data. They all challenge how we look at data and how we approach it in the form of content from every level, from collection to methodology, to the translation of it, to insights and knowledge, and of course, how we go about expressing the results. Now, note here that I chose to say expressing rather than visualizing, because data visualizations are extremely limiting and exclusive, and they really rely on one dimension of sensory input, which would be sight. So when I say expression of data, this could be any sensory expression, whether it be sight, smell, taste, touch, and sound. Of course, each of these has their own inherent level of limitation and exclusivity. And it's not until we begin to mix and match them that we start to find more inclusive expressions of data. Okay, so now let's take a look at that fourth example. So here we have Being Ecological by Timothy Morton. It's about ecology, as you might have guessed, and it interweaves a theoretical philosophy of everything called OOO to help us better understand our relationship and our place within the world around us. But it's a bit complicated, so I've included some of these references at the end of the slide deck that the organizers will share with you in the Slack channel. So here's that sentence that sent me into the existential crisis. So let me paraphrase for the sake of time. Timothy Morton says that we need to start to live the data before we can begin to comprehend what the data is telling us. Now, it seems like a really simple idea to live the data, but how would we go about doing that? And this is really the root at the conversation that we're going to have today. So essentially what he's saying is that we can't understand the complexity or urgency of climate change because the data is designed in a way that prevents an appropriate reaction. And furthermore, that we can't understand it because we can't live the data and what that data is expressing. So the issue isn't that people haven't been given enough information or enough facts or enough stats or charts. The issue really is that they haven't been delivered in such a way that inspires an emotional reaction or a connection to that data. So now I know this doesn't apply to all data, but it's an interesting perspective and a problem to dig into. So a common pipeline we can look at would be data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. So let's dig into this and let's look at data to start. So let's say we wind up with a data set or a set of summary data. We begin by wrapping our heads around it or exploring it, testing it, questioning it, slicing and dicing it. But data as we know it is just a mere abstraction of a series of interactions that have been captured by the tools that have been built by humans, naturally, and that these interactions are more often than not driven by human relationships. And then we have information, and information is manipulated data. And data and information are often presented as objective truths or facts. But is that even really possible? And then yet we add another layer of subjectivity when we move from information to knowledge. And to gain knowledge, we link information to other contextually relevant pieces of information. And then we create relationships. But of course, those relationships have perspectives. So if it wasn't clear that there was bias at play when we were initially talking and looked at data and information, it must certainly be now, right? So then what we're hoping for is that we take that knowledge and we start transforming it into wisdom by spending hours by creating an expression of the original data. And that this hopefully will mean something to someone and someone takes note and then is inspired to act. So this transformation from knowledge to actionable wisdom is actually the most difficult thing to achieve. So how can we inspire our audiences to take knowledge that we've given them and then turn that into inspired action? So the basic premise is here, how can we get them to act? And so these are some of the questions that I've been actively exploring in my work. And some of them are, do people or practitioners like us get accused of misleading when we try to make people feel and live the data? What are the risks involved in making our data experiences or expressions more emotive? And how can we start to create more empathetic and inclusive expressions or experiences with data that inspire people into action without masking or losing that core integrity of the data? So it would seem, if we begin to blend the rigor of the data world and more theoretical practices from the art and design spaces, that it really might help us make more inclusive data-driven expressions, stories, perspectives, and experiences. And by doing this, I really believe that we'll be able to create a more powerful and memorable data expressions, and that this will help facilitate greater comprehension and retention, and ultimately inspire audiences into informed action. And I believe that we have a responsibility in the way that we communicate and express data to actively seek out ways of being more accessible, more inclusive, and more comprehensible, and in the end, more emotive. But ultimately, it's up to us. And what do you think about this? So thanks for being here with me today. And as I said, there's going to be a copy of these slides and some examples of some of the things that we've talked about today, and also some more examples of some of the projects that I think may be headed in the direction of being an expression of data or data design that we can start to use as examples to look at as a baseline for different ways of integrating senses into data outputs. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Talk to you later. Bye.